it's a money generating activity because at the end of the day, unless you flat out just ignore your results and you say, whatevs, I'm going to do what I want to do, it's going to help you improve a process or improve your products and services or keep you from spending money on something that you shouldn't be.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey Vivian!
Hey Chelsea!
Hey, we're here again. What's today's episode about?
So it's actually called Smoke and Mirrors, and we are talking about why you need to do market research as a small business and also how to go about doing it because it does seem a little intimidating, right?
I know, that's big words.
Yeah.
Market research, I don't like that, but okay.
You do often think of big, large corporations doing market research because they have the time and resources, and so we want to just kind of dispel that rumor, that myth, and let you guys know as small businesses, you should be doing it too. So to kick this off, I first wanted to start, Chelsea, by telling you this fantastic, intriguing story about a villain and a hero. And this is kind of like a little test because what I want to do at the very end of this story is I want you to tell me which company you think is the villain and which company you think is the hero. And so I'm not going to tell you the names of these companies. You're just going to have to try to piece it together.
Okay, I got it.
Back in 1985, this company started to make movies accessible to families everywhere. It stocked thousands of VHS tapes. Do you know what a VHS tape is?
I know what a VHS tape is. Okay.
Allowing consumers to come in and peruse their VHS tapes on these shelves. And they would come in, pick a couple of them out, and take them home with them with the catch that if they were late, they would be charged a late fee. And that late fee would be something like $1 a day, I think.
Okay, is it Blockbuster?
No, you're not supposed to guess.
I'm sorry.
Right?
I don't know. Okay.
All right. So here's the thing. They were a powerhouse, and they rode that train for many, many years until 1997 when they charged the wrong S.O.B late fees, okay? And I don't mean small-owned business, okay? So this guy started his own company because he was charged $40 for being tardy in returning Apollo 13.
I already know this story.
Okay, what is his name? What's the name of the company?
Netflix.
So
let's pretend we don't know. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Well, smarty pants. So here's the thing.
Well, no, I went to marketing school.
Yeah. So here's the big thing is this guy in 1997 decides to start Netflix. And at that time, we started to use DVDs. So that meant that he was able to not only forego the overhead of all these stores, but he was able to get people on a mailing list, a subscription, where he would mail them these little flat DVDs and they would be able to keep it for as long as they wanted to without being charged any late fees. Now, the catch on his end was you're not going to get another DVD until you return and send this one back.
Okay.
And then you could swap it out, right? Here's the thing. By 2000, Blockbuster, the late fee charging video rental place, thinks that they're riding the cash train because late fees accounted for 16% of their total revenue. Let me put that into dollars, okay? That is a cool $800 million. $800 million. And so then in 2004, they expanded to have 9,000 stores throughout the world. Fast forward to 2013, and Blockbuster is closing their last US-based store. All right, so think about that. From the time of 2000 2004, when they have 9,000 stores, to then 2013, less than 10 years, they are closing shop, right? And so, as you guessed, the S.O.B that started this little DVD subscription is now on every single platform. They're on our TVs, they're on our laptops, cell phones, everywhere. My point in bringing this up is to say market research. If Blockbuster had done their market research and had found out what the sentiment was towards people being charged a late fee, and also where technology was going and what the consumer wanted, they maybe could have had a chance at sticking around. Here's the thing, though, is small businesses are not Blockbusters. They don't have all of this capital or, just resources that they can tap into. So why do you think, Chelsea, it's so important for small businesses to do market research on their own?
Here's the thing. You might think you know your customers and you know what they want, but unless you're doing market research, you don't know for a fact that is what they want. You need to gather that information and actually have that information to be able to say, this is what my consumer wants. Right. Especially with social media, we might look at social media and say, oh, all I'm seeing is this kind of content. So I know this is what my consumer wants. But your social media is an algorithm, and it's what you specifically want to see. That's how it's designed. You are not necessarily your target audience.
Right.
Exactly. So everything that you're seeing on social media might not be what they're seeing on their social media, and it might not be what they want. Unless you're actually doing the work and asking your customers what they want, you're just guessing.
I feel like social media has made us a little bit lazy as small business owners. So to your point, I don't know that any of us should be making decisions about our small business based off of what we're seeing on social media. The truth is, you should be basing it on things like market research, feedback that you're getting from customers, your goals as a business, and then also looking at your numbers, right? So looking at what your revenue is, what your revenue streams are, where, how your products and services are doing. It's great to utilize social media as a window into what people might be thinking. But to Chelsea's point, this is very interesting, and I think everybody should try this. If you have an Instagram account that is a business account that you run for your small business, and you have a personal Instagram account, log into both of them individually, and I want you to see the difference in what information is put in front of you, or what reels are put in front of you, or what posts. Because what we see on the seasoned marketer Instagram profile is very different than what I see as Vivian.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's a very good point, because if you're on your business page and you're thinking that what you're seeing is actual reality, but you're not backing that up with the data, then it's, it may skew your perception.
Yeah. And even if you're on your business's social media, you're going to see a lot of other businesses' social media that are related to yours, and you're going to say, oh, look at this competitor. This is what they're doing. They must know what the consumer wants. That's not necessarily true, because they're also doing the same thing.
Another point I want to make here is that market research, contrary to popular belief, is actually a money-generating activity.
Yes.
There is a reason that these big companies are spending money on collecting data. That's all they're doing, is collecting data. So I don't know if I've told you this before, Chelsea, but back when I was in college, so Chelsea and I both went to the University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks. When I was working, I actually had to work while still going to school to make some money.
Me too.
And one of the jobs I had was at a market research firm. That was the coolest job, for one, because it was super flexible, but also because it made me do some weird stuff. Okay? Like some of the stuff I've done, I'm like, what in the world? So just as an example, one of the projects I worked on was a beer company had actually hired us to go out and, as everybody knows, the positioning of products on shelves is extremely important, especially when you're in a supermarket. Yep. So for weeks on end, I actually had to go out with a little map of these coolers, and I had to mark count how many cases of beer were left in that particular position for their line of beers, right? So typically a beer company might actually own like 4 different lines of beers. We just don't know it. So for each one, I had to count the cases in there. Now, what they were doing is they were trying to figure out if they should go back and negotiate for a better spot. So they wanted to look at the data to see, all right, consistently over this much time frame, how many cases of beer are being sold if we're on that second shelf at eye level, right? Or if we're down here at the bottom. Yeah. So data. Right. The other cool thing I got to do was actually stand in a Sonic drive-thru in the hot South Carolina weather. Oh, God. While people were eagerly waiting for their cheeseburgers, I had to sit there and basically say, hey, can I take 30 seconds of your time to ask you 5 questions? There were a lot of upset people, but I ended up getting my questions answered, and I would have to catalog it. Now, Sonic's paid for that. The other one was I would do evening calls for focus groups. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all of them hire these market research firms to basically find their target audience and bring them in. They'll pay them like $100 and screen them. So I had to be sure that they were the right customer that they were looking for. Bring them, invite them out. We would put them behind. We had this cool room that had a where you couldn't see out. They could stand there, the executives could stand there and watch the interview go on and see them sampling the products, but they didn't know they were being watched. Yeah. And we did record the whole thing. And so it was pretty cool to see that end of it, because I think it gave me certain appreciation for really what these big companies are doing. And there is a reason they're investing all these resources. At the end of the day, now here's the thing. It's a money generating activity, because at the end of the day, unless you flat out just ignore your results and you say, whatevs, I'm going to do what I want to do, it's going to help you improve a process or improve your products and services or keep you from spending money on something that you shouldn't be. So, for example, Coca-Cola, if their, marshmallow Coke, their flavor came out and they had done a focus group and the focus group was like, this is the nastiest crap ever, like, don't do it, then, that would prevent them from spending all that money. So.
Of course. Well, I think, though, we're talking about big corporations spending lots of money doing this stuff, so we might be deterring some small businesses, like, oh my gosh, that's too much money, that's too much time. It's not. There are things that you can do as a small business that is still market research, but it's not doing a focus group or something like that. Right. You mentioned earlier feedback. Just asking for feedback. One of our clients, Brazilian Wax and Spa by Claudia in downtown Somerville, Bray. Hey, Bray. Hey, Bray. Bray and I are real close. I started working there the summer of my freshman year of college.
For the Brazilian wax.
For Brazilian wax. And then I transferred to the one in Colombia. I just have a really good relationship with them, and they're one of our clients. But a great thing that Bray does that is market research is every time someone comes in for their first visit, a few days after their first visit, you call them and you say, hey, how was your experience? Did you like your skin specialist? Were you satisfied with your service? Just let us know. Just doing that is going to help you understand your consumer, because let's say something is wrong, like, oh, actually, I really hated this process. Right. Well, now this could be a problem.
What's interesting about that one too, she's very smart in deploying that, because for one, she's segmenting the group. So she's saying, I want to know what every new customer, the experience they have for a new appointment, right?
Yes.
And so she's segmenting that group. Then she's having somebody on her team reach out to them a couple days after. So it's a process that she has in place that now it's just like clockwork, right?
Exactly.
The staff is used to doing it. So the patient or the customer then
Healthcare.
The customer then gets a call. For one, they feel like it's a tailored service. Oh, you actually care for my input? That's amazing. And yes, I will be more than happy to share with you my feedback. And what she's also doing, and she may not realize it, but she's catching them before they go on Google.
Yes.
Yep. So if they did have a bad experience, she wants to know about it before Google review knows about it, just so that she could go in and fix the problem if there is one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you do not give people an avenue to give you feedback, they're going to find one. And that's usually Facebook or Instagram stories or Google reviews. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or Yelp if you're in the restaurant industry.
Yep. Or Yelp.
Another reason that you want to do this market research is because it keeps you relevant. If you are not talking to your customers, and what I mean by talking to your customers is so many small businesses talk at their customers.
Yep.
Let me just give you all the information about my business, my products, my services. But yet I don't open it up for engagement or for conversation to be had. Then it leaves the opportunity for us to end up like a Blockbuster, where we're so out of touch with our customers that we just don't realize that their mentality is shifting to something completely different. For one, collecting that feedback, like you said with Bray, it does help to keep her relevant because she's hearing what people are actually thinking once they set foot outside her door. The other thing, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say feedback, guest surveys. Even just when they come out or when they're checking out, hey, how was your experience today?
You can automate a lot of this too.
You can.
So I know with the example you shared, they're making a physical call. And let's say if you're saying, Vivian, I don't have the capability, I don't have the staff, the time to be able to call our customers, it's okay. You can actually automate some of this with some of the electronic options that are out there. So if you set up something in your system where it deploys or it sends out an email every time after somebody is, has set foot in your store, has made a purchase from you, then that will help you collect that information as well.
Exactly.
Do you have a list of emails that you have collected from past buyers that is just sitting there getting dusty?
Are you looking for a way to build a long-term relationship with people so that your small business will stay top of mind for them? Want to increase your repeat sales? For every dollar spent on email marketing, businesses receive an average of a $42 return on their investment. And with an ROI like that, can you really afford to continue to let that email list sit there and just collect dust? Joining our Nothing But Emails monthly membership program means that you can sit back and reap the rewards of sending out monthly or bi-monthly communication while we craft the email and send it out on your behalf.
For less than $100 a month, you can capitalize on this. Start today by visiting www.theseasonmarketer.com/services. Another thing, Chelsea, is I think people don't allow enough room for customers to grow and change. What I mean by that is, as humans, our preferences change over time.
Yes.
And a lot of these preferences are tied to perhaps technology or just where we're at in life, right? So someone who is 20, single, ready to mingle with no kids, over time, they're going to change if they happen to get married, have children. The 30-year-old version of them with children in a minivan is very different than the 20-year-old version of them out partying, right?
Yeah.
So your customers may change, and getting this feedback is going to indicate or tell you at what point your customer base is morphing or is wanting something new and different. And what this allows you to do as a small business is, at that point, you decide, is this person still my ideal customer?
Yeah.
And do I still want to do business with them? Or am I now looking for a completely different target audience?
And I think that brings a really good point, that your customers, your consumers may grow out of you.
Yes.
And that's fine, as long as you can grow with them, and if that's where you want to go with your business. But if they're growing out of you, that's okay. You just need to remember to stick with your target audience. You are not for everyone.
So Chelsea, where do you think website analytics kind of fits into that whole market research part of it?
Okay, so I feel like small businesses are like, oh my God, website analytics, this is too difficult to look at. You're thinking too much about it. You're making it difficult. It is feedback. You can go on your website and see, oh, this specific page is really popular. Mm-hmm. What's the content on the page?
Right.
If it's one specific service, then you know people love that service. Or you could go on there and you could see, people are clicking on this page and then quickly moving on.
Right.
Okay, maybe they're not interested in that then. You just have to look at the data and really think about what it's saying, because it's telling you a story about your consumer, about your customer.
Right. Interesting story, because our background is in healthcare. Mm-hmm. When I've been with the company for a very long time now, and one of the things, we've done many iterations of a website. One of the things that we noticed with the first website that we had was when I looked at the website analytics, the most popular pages were the pages that had the photos of the docs on it. And
of course.
Yeah. And so what's interesting about that, because this was over 10 years ago, so different consumer at the time. But what it kind of told me was, people like to be familiar. They don't want to be surprised when they walk into a patient room. And I mean, not that they're expecting their doctor to have 3 heads or anything, but it's nice to know what someone looks like.
Exactly.
Right? It's the reason we say, oh, nice to finally be able to put a face to a name. Right?
And getting that background information about them, you just want to feel closer to them.
Right. You feel like you get a little insight into what that person may be like and whether they'll be a good fit for you as a physician. If you go on these websites and you're like, I have no clue what these terms mean, Google it. Yep. Because the terms that they're using for website analytics, sometimes you think it means something than it actually means. So like Chelsea said, it will tell you the amount of time someone spends on a particular page.
Yep.
Sometimes what that can also tell you is the complexity of your product and service and whether or not you're breaking it down to where they understand. If you're trying to explain a very complicated service and they're spending a lot of time on that page, it might mean that that they're a little confused and they're trying to figure it out or something. So there is a lot that you can take from those analytics for sure. Websites are also a really great place to include forms or include ways for people to be able to connect with you if they do have feedback. If you're in any type of service industry, it might not be a bad idea for you to have a suggestion form on there.
Yes.
Or I don't want to call it a complaint form, but if someone has a complaint, the most frustrating thing is when they cannot pick up the phone and call somebody, or they feel like they are just muted and not being heard.
Yes. And that is a great way to get a lot of really negative Google reviews.
Yes. And so that's the whole thing is if you're not capturing it, they're going to go elsewhere with it. So best that you give them an avenue to do that. And it's better that it's on your website. So then you're collecting it on the back end. You're able to take action on it quickly. So then at least, they feel like they were heard, understood, and that you were able to resolve the issue. That doesn't mean that you guys have to cave in to, to random requests, because sometimes people can be high maintenance, but it's just good practice to do this. All right. The last thing is you also need to know what people are saying about you when they think you're not paying attention or you're not in the room. Okay. So this happens quite a bit. Most people typically, when you ask them how service was or how the experience was, they're just going to...
It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was good.
Now, we do have an example that's a little different.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So we had recently gone out with our mom and some friends, and we had gone to Taco Boy. Now, the last time we had gone with our mother, she did not enjoy it. She was not a fan.
She didn't like the food.
She didn't want to come back. But we went
Our
out.
mom is from El Salvador, so I think Mexican food, Hispanic food, Latin food.
You got to do it right.
Exactly.
And she knows when it's wrong, okay? Yes. So we had gone to Taco Boy, even though she kind of didn't want to go, but we still ended up going. She loved it this time. She thought it was great this time. She even said, oh, they must have changed their chef.
Yeah.
So... A great example, the manager was going around asking everyone, hey, how's your meal going? Are you enjoying your service? How's the food?
And Chelsea and I and our friend Karen, we're all just like, yeah,
It was fine.
It's great.
It's good.
Because that's what we do. We just kind of placate and whatever,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Well, Mom, yes, it's great. Last time I was here, it was not good.
That's right.
It was not good. But this time, you must have changed chefs or you must have changed something because this time it was good. That's our mom, and that's the way she is. Not everyone's going to do that.
Yeah, so
yeah.
the funny thing about that is you do have people that when you give them the opportunity to voice or express their honest opinion about stuff, they will tell you. And then you have people like me or maybe like employees, if you're doing employee surveys and stuff, where you have to feel super comfortable that someone is actually wanting your opinion before you express it, because you almost feel like, well, why am I going to tell you something if you're not going to act on it?
Exactly.
So I need to know that you're going to act on it. You're going to listen to me. You're going to take some of that and then actually change something or try to improve the situation. So there are two schools of people. There are the Reinas. They're going to tell you straight up when something's not right. And if you give her an outlet, if it's a manager stopping by the table while we're eating, she'll straight up tell you. Someone like me, I would rather post it on a Google review. So I'm that person. So our point in saying that is the market research allows you to actually get honest opinions about stuff, regardless of what type of person or what category you fall in, whether you're a Reina or a Vivian. So hopefully you'll take some of these ideas from what you can deploy as market research in your own small business and start doing that. So Chelsea, do you want to do a quick speed round recap of what small businesses can be doing to collect some of that research?
Okay, we've got website analytics. Look at what's going on your website. On your website, you can add some forms to get some interaction, some comments, some complaints. You don't have to call it a complaint form. Call it a comment form.
Yeah, feedback form.
Something like that. Don't say complaints. But okay, so website analytics, forms, asking for feedback. Even if you're just checking them out, you can call them after their first visit, like Bray does. Guest surveys. You can do an automated text. You can say, hey, could you fill this out? Just ask for guest surveys. Really, at the bottom line, it's asking for their honest feedback.
Some of this can be done at checkout. So you'll see whether it's a dental place or something, when they're going and checking out, they actually now have these little iPads and stuff where they'll ask you right there for some of your commentary or your feedbacks or to rate stuff. So these are all things that you can be doing as a small business owner to start to get some of that coming back in so that what people are saying about your small business. And the last one that I think we just haven't touched on is y'all do your own research on these platforms. Go onto Facebook, and if you have not, so you know how we tell you to Google the name of your business on Google so that you can see all the stuff that's out there?
Yep.
Okay. Google your own business, see what's out there, but more so on Facebook, do that as well. So actually type your business name in the search bar, and then when it pulls up, there will actually be options for looking at photos, at posts, or at accounts and stuff. Click on the post.
Yeah.
Because as long as a post is made public, then you'll see it populate in there. And sometimes if that's the case, it may be that they're talking stuff about your business, okay? So that's a really good tool to see what's out there and what people are saying. When and if you find a post like that, the other thing is to look at the comments underneath, because sometimes if somebody's complaining, what you'll see is sometimes people will jump on there and share their experience, right? Whether that be good or bad. So sometimes they're defending your small business, and sometimes they're saying, no, I've had the same experience. Yeah. Either way, it's information. And let me give you a really interesting just advice that I heard, and it really stuck with me. Feedback is nothing but data. Do not let it affect you. Okay.
Yes.
So I think it's hard I know I personally have had to evolve into that because a lot of what we do is so close to, I don't know, it's, we're being creative, we're writing, we're doing stuff like that. So when someone gives you feedback, you're thinking, oh my gosh, you're taking it a little personally. Same thing with your small business. We know it, you guys, when you're out there busting your hump to, get these products and services out there, and someone says something nasty or bad or tells you that they've had a bad experience, it kind of hurts your feelings a little bit, right? You take it to heart. But what you need to do is just reframe it and say, all feedback is data. And what I do with that data is the most important thing, right?
Absolutely.
So don't attach emotion to it. So figure out then what you're going to do with that data and that information. Are you going to realign your products and services? Does it show where you have a gap in a process? Is it related to a particular employee or staff member? Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's be real. That's another big one too. So
absolutely. And I think at the start of this episode, we were talking about market research, and now we're talking about feedback. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's just data. And so you might be sitting here going, oh, I can't do market research. And then now throughout this podcast, you're realizing, oh, I ask for feedback all the time. You're already halfway there. It's, again, just what you do with that information.
Analyzing it. And putting the puzzle pieces together. And
Absolutely.
then the other part of it, too, is just being sure you're doing it somewhat consistently, because it can, that needle, like we talked about, your audience, your potential customers can change and evolve with time and with technology. So a shift in that needle, you'll want to be able to identify that before it happens or it skews too much, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it for today's podcast.
That's great. Well, I hope you guys go out there and do a lot of market research.
That's right. And be the best SOB that you can be. Thanks.